Control the kitchen chaos and streamline your back-of-house operations with Restaurant Technologies. Restaurant Technologies' Total Oil Management Solution is the end-to-end automated oil management system that delivers, filters, monitors, and recycles your cooking oil, taking the dirtiest job out of the kitchen and lets your employees focus on more important tasks. The Total Oil Management Solution helps prevent the burns, spills, slips, and falls that come with traditional oil management. Restaurant Technologies gives you and your employees peace of mind among the chaos of a commercial kitchen and can maximize efficiency for your business. And no upfront cost. Learn more about Restaurant Technologies and all the solutions they offer by visiting rti-inc.com or call 888-796-4997.
Hello there, I'm Pat Cobe, Senior Editor of Restaurant Business, and we're here with Menu Talk, along with my co-host, Bret Thorn.
Yes, I'm Bret Thorn, Senior Food and Beverage Editor of Nation's Restaurant News and Restaurant Hospitality. A little groggy from, a long Thanksgiving weekend, but otherwise, all's well. How are you, Pat?
I'm good. I've recovered from my turkey dinner. We had 25 people at Thanksgiving at my brother's house, so it was quite a feast. Everyone brought something, but I helped my sister-in-law make the turkeys, and I made the chestnut stuffing and Brussels sprouts and 2 pies. So that was my contribution.
That's a lot. That's a lot of work. I went to a small Thanksgiving at a friend's home on the Upper East Side with his aunt and uncle and wife and 2 children, aged 10 and 12, I think, something like that. And so it was relatively intimate. And my contribution was wine. My friend is a Beaujolais fan, which also goes well with Thanksgiving dinner. It's Beaujolais Nouveau season, so I brought some Beaujolais Nouveau for all of us to try. And I also, for the kids, I brought a 2-liter bottle of kvass, which we've talked about, that non-alcoholic, not beer from the former Soviet Union. And they actually didn't have it at the Thanksgiving dinner, but I got a text from one of them the next day that this particular variety of kvass was licorice flavored, and they liked it. They like root beer, which is why I thought they might like kvass.
Mm-hmm.
And they said it went really well with the pizza they had for dinner on Friday.
Cool.
So that was part of my food adventure. And then we also have a Black Friday tradition that's so old that we don't call it Black Friday. We call it the day after Thanksgiving. Because this was the 39th year of us meeting in Chinatown, starting at Joe's Shanghai for pork and shrimp soup dumplings, and then eating and drinking our way through the city until we're done. I haven't gone all of the 39 years. I've probably gone for, 30.
That's really impressive.
It's a fun custom, and these are old college friends of mine, including the one with whom I spent Thanksgiving the day before. And it used to be quite an eat and drink fest, but we're getting on in years, and we got other things to do. And a couple of them have gout, and someone is on one of the weight loss drugs. So it's not quite the and we're all in our 50s, so it's not like the crazy bacchanalia that it's been in the past. We went to Joe's Shanghai, and then we had some drinks at Whiskey Tavern, which is in Chinatown. And then we went to Great NY Noodletown for wonton noodle soup. Some of us have it with pork, some with duck. And then after that, we went to Alex Stupak's Empeyon Taqueria in the East Village and just had a little beer and a couple of tacos. I had their version of a Mexican pizza. And then we'd had enough, and we went home, and I was home by 5:00, which actually felt really good.
Well, it sounds like you had enough to eat for sure.
Plenty. But, it used to go on much longer back when our priorities were different.
Well, speaking of dumplings, I actually did, this was before Thanksgiving, but I went on a dumpling kind of a little tour of Jackson Heights, where the dumplings are called Momos because they are from the Himalayan region, and they're the specialty of Tibet and Nepal. And so I had never had a Momo before. Have you?
Yes, I actually had momos in Nepal.
Okay, well,
I was visiting back when I lived in Bangkok. I visited a friend who was actually a governor for two young children. As opposed to a governess, because he's
oh,
a governor. He was overseeing their education, and I hung out with him and spent time with his friends, and they made momos.
okay, well, yeah,
So
I didn't get to Nepal, but I got to Jackson Heights, which is
not
pretty
yet.
close. And there's a huge Nepalese and Tibetan community in Jackson Heights,
Hmm.
and they actually do have a Momo crawl every fall, but that isn't what we did. I was with some friends from Nashville, and they had a friend who lived in Brooklyn who knew Momos, so he took us around to 5 different places, and it was really a revelation for me. The first one we had, well, we had the beef filled ones at every single stop because I guess that's the most popular. They actually look like soup dumplings, but they're filled with just more meat than a soup dumpling would be and less liquid. And we also had chicken filled ones. We had one with goat that was wrapped in like a spinach wrapper instead of the traditional white type of wrapper.
Oh, a low carb momo.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was a spinach dough. It wasn't
Okay.
the spinach.
So
Yeah.
not that.
And we had a couple of other interesting, something that looked like an empanada, but it was actually a type of fried momo. And it was really, my favorite one was the one stuffed with chives because it was all chives and it was really delicious. It was very chive forward for
There
sure.
are chivy dumplings in China as well. I spent my junior year of college in China, and we had chivy dumplings like that. And interestingly, the momos that I had in Nepal were more like those fluffy steamed buns.
Hmm.
Often in New York, often stuffed with char siu pork or something like that.
Right.
But it's cool that you got to try so many different varieties. That
Yeah.
sounds like fun, and you've
Definitely.
ended
I
up.
definitely want to make a return trip there. It was, even though I grew up in Queens, not far from Jackson Heights, I had never been in that neighborhood, which was very different when I was growing up, of course, but it was really eye opening.
That's awesome. Yeah, and Queens and Brooklyn are both huge. They both have about 2.5 million people, and
Hmm.
vastly different communities from one neighborhood to another. So you never run out of things to explore, which is
Yeah,
part of the
true.
fun. So I have one more Thanksgiving observation that because you had 26 different people, you said.
Well, one was a child, so there were 25,
Well,
a
but
3-year old, so he
well,
didn't
so
sit very long, but
and probably didn't contribute to the culinary experience, although
no.
probably did contribute to the entertainment of the festivities. But my friends who are also like me are Eastern European Jews. They have a custom of a carrot ring that they
Hmm.
serve. It's a sweet, cooked in like a bundt pan carrot cake
Hmm.
kind of thing. And the interesting thing about that is that my grandmother also had a carrot ring like that,
Really?
and we'd never seen it anywhere else. And did you ever have that growing up? You're also an Eastern
No.
European Jew, so I'm wondering if it's if maybe our ancestors came from a similar, shtetl somewhere in Eastern Europe, or maybe it was just like in a good housekeeping issue from like the 1950s, and they're like, oh, this looks like fun, and so they.
Well, it sounds like a precursor or an alternative to the Jello mold that shows up at our Thanksgiving.
I mean, it's this a similar utensil.
Hmm.
The
Right.
So yeah, maybe it's just let's do something festive with that particular ring. And my friend's family serve it traditionally with peas in the middle. We never
Mm,
served it with anything,
interesting. Wow. That
and
sounds good,
it
actually.
is, yeah, it's a tasty, um, you know, mildly sweet carrot cake. My friend's version had more cinnamon than my grandmother's version did, but
Mm,
similar basic flavor profile.
very
So
cool. Wow.
yeah, who knew?
I'm
I was going to
sorry.
say, if anybody in the audience also has a carrot ring that they eat at festive events and happen to be of Eastern European extraction, let us know. We
Yeah,
can add some
I'll
of the
have to
mystery.
look up some recipes for that because it is really a new one on me.
Mm.
And I
Yeah.
actually worked at Good Housekeeping. So
Oh,
I don't remember that. I mean, not in the 50s, obviously, but we did go back into the archives a lot to look up recipes when we did the big holiday issues. So, yeah, I'll have to look that up.
going into archives is so fun because some of the
Yeah,
recipes are
definitely.
so hilarious. And I maybe we could delve into that on some episode, but I kind of feel like we
Hmm.
have other things we have to talk about for this podcast at the moment.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to say I capped off Thanksgiving weekend by going to see Wicked, which was really enjoyable.
Oh,
And afterwards, we went to an Indian restaurant in the East Village called Baar Baar, where they do Indian small plates and really delicious, like Indian flavored cocktails, which I really liked. I had one with cardamom and rose water, and it was kind of like an Aperol spritz, but Indian style.
yeah, with cardamom and
Mm,
rose water. That
yeah,
sounds
really
great.
good. And we had some delicious potato, almost like it almost looked like a like an Indian dumpling, but it was in a crispy rice shell filled with potatoes, and then it had a sauce with it on top, like a yogurt sauce on top.
Sounds a little
Really
bit like a
delicious.
samosa. Was it fried or
It was like a deconstructed samosa, but much more elevated. You know, it had like a very delicate, crispy rice shell, and then that was filled with potato. They were tiny, almost like quarter size. So
a lot of work to make?
it was, yeah, but really, really good. I had never had anything like that before.
That sounds awesome. And I'll have
Yeah.
to get back to Bar Bar sometime soon. I like that place.
Yeah, well, they have one side of the menu is all the small plates, and it's kind of modern Indian. But now the other side of the menu, they're doing Northern Indian specialties. So if you like Northern Indian food, it's the place to go now. I
And they
think
do
that's like a limited time kind of thing.
no, and they do brunch also, right?
Yeah, they do
So,
brunch. Mhm.
and I don't think there are a lot of Indian restaurants in New York that do brunch, so that's a nice option.
No, it's a little different
I
for
actually
sure.
just wrote about an Indian food, Southern Indian, dosa. I had to write about like handhelds or sandwiches or stuff because that was in the editorial.
Mm,
And I thought, well, dosas are cool, and they're appearing on more menus, and they can be vegan and they're gluten free because they're made with rice and lentils and fenugreek. You have to put fenugreek in. This is a thing I learned.
mm,
And
interesting.
you ferment the batter until it doubles in size, and then you make it sort of like a crepe. And I was reminded of that because you mentioned the potatoes in your item at Bar Bar, and the most traditional dosa is stuffed with spiced, sort of smashed potatoes.
Mm. I love dosas. Those are really
Yeah,
good.
they're
It's
yummy.
hard. They're not easy to find in New York anyway. I mean, there are a few places that do them, but
Yes. Well, the story that I wrote went live today, so
oh,
on
I'll have
on
to
both
read.
nrn.com and restauranthospitality.com. So if you guys wanna learn about it, you can. And if you're in New York, there are a couple of different New York restaurants that I mentioned. So there are options.
Yeah, there are a couple of fast casual, like in the Market 57, there's a place that does them, and that's the food hall on the Hudson River. And
Yes.
there's a really good dosa stand there. So that's where I've had the most recently.
Oh, well, thank you for
Yeah.
that tip because I'm actually going into Manhattan later today. Maybe I'll swing by and have some doses.
Well, I also did an interview with the CMO of Tropical Smoothie Cafe, whose name is Deborah Kutzleben. I mispronounced it, of course, when I first started because it's not spelled that way. But anyway, she corrected me, and she's a very interesting person. They're doing a lot of menu innovation at Tropical Smoothies, so I'm going to play a few clips from that. And she starts by talking about how they introduced tropic bowls this year, which is a lot of the smoothie places are introducing bowls so that you can have more of a meal or meal replacement kind of thing at these formerly what were, considered snack concepts.
Our biggest one is the launch of our Tropic Bowls that happened at the beginning of this year. It has really been an overwhelmingly positive addition to the menu. We've got great guest response, and we launched that with an acai bowl. We actually had a lineup of 4 bowls that we launched with, and it has really, it was sort of this perfect marriage of food and smoothie in one product. And it has really been well received. We have continued innovation on that as well. But I would say Tropic Bowls, and then most recently, the current LTO that we're running right now is really testing our way into snacking.
But
I think they've always been considered a snack concept, but now they're doing little food snacks as well.
Oh, snacks you can chew. So that's fun. Yeah, I've always thought acai bowls were a little weird because they're just like smoothies, but with chunks and a spoon.
Mm-hmm. But I guess when you eat something with a spoon, it just feels like more of a meal than when you drink it through a straw.
Oh, definitely. And I like chewing what I eat. So I've never been a huge smoothie guy, but
yeah, I don't think we're the demographic that they're aiming for, which she does talk about later. But yeah, I mean, I like smoothies. I can make them at home, so I don't usually, go to a smoothie concept. And there aren't too many of them in New York. I think they're mostly outside of New York in the Sun Belt or in, in the suburbs.
Yes, I think that's true. There has been Jamba Juice in New York for a long time, but I know there are Pliables here and a few others.
Yeah, Pliables are here, but that's more of a bowl concept than a smoothie concept.
In fact, they probably do smoothies. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
I've only been to a couple.
Well, she does talk about how tropical smoothie is more of a refreshment and kind of treat destination than a meal destination.
One of the main reasons people come to Tropical Smoothie Cafe is for refreshment, right? And we wanted to be able to meet that in other ways beyond smoothies. And I think bowls really do that. One of the insights also that we drew on was this notion of sort of a treat mentality that you see, especially in social media, and people talking about wanting to treat themselves, and not really in necessarily an indulgent way, but just to feel better and have a great, pleasurable eating experience, that kind of bright spot in their day. And bowls really kind of was a product that really checked a lot of those boxes for people. It's refreshing, but it has some sweetness to it, but it's better for me. And it's got the fresh fruit. And so it works just on a lot of levels, both for the brand and for the consumer.
Well, these smoothie concepts, I mean, we do the top 500 report every year, and you also write about that. And the smoothie concepts did really, really well last year. They all grew. So obviously they're meeting a demand that is there.
When a bunch of them have bowls, and I think she's right that there's a sense that, eating a bowl, people seem to think that if it's in a bowl, it's better for them than if it's on a plate. I'm not exactly sure, or in a sandwich. And it's a nice way to eat. There's something satisfying about having all of your food sort of contained in a little open package with a spoon.
Well, I think one of the, I did a story a while ago on, I think it was from Just Salad or Chopped or one of the salad concepts. And one of their big selling points for bowls is that you get like all the ingredients in every bite. Like when you have things on a plate, you sort of have to put it together yourself if you want to get everything in one bite. But here you have everything mixed up and you can have everything in one bite. So.
True. Although it's interesting, the custom with bowls is to like arrange them, right? So
Mm,
that every ingredient on top is in a little triangle all around it, like sort of, I think, copying Korean bibimbap, which is traditionally done that way.
right.
So you have to stir it and mix it up to get everything in one bite. But it is pretty for the social media that way.
No, it is. I mean, that's a big point on about smoothie concepts. There's a lot of social media generated around it,
For sure.
and I think another reason they're doing so well is their back of house is really very low labor. I mean, you don't have to cook anything really. I mean, there might be some cooked ingredients in some of the items, but there isn't much that is cooked. Well,
This,
tropical smoothie is doing more, more snacky and small things. And I think this is one of the things she talks about next, about how they're differentiating from other brands with some of their food.
One of the main ways we do that, I don't think anyone has, like the chia oatmeal bowl that I referenced. It's something like that is very unique to the market. I think providing that alongside a lot of our core food items as well is a way to differentiate. You don't see a lot of smoothie brands with the extensive food menu that Tropical Smoothie Cafe has. So that just expands the occasions and the different opportunities that guests can order from us with a bowl. So I think from that standpoint, it's differentiating. And then, like I mentioned, through more innovation, we just a couple months ago we took our most famous Bahama Mama smoothie and turned that into a bowl. So obviously that is proprietary to us, and it's just a delicious, slightly more indulgent base with a lot of fresh fruit. And it's just for those people who love the Bahama Mama, it just provides them another option with something to eat instead of just drink through a straw. So those are types of ways that we're trying to differentiate.
Yeah, so they're really focusing on breakfast as well because they have this oatmeal chia bowl, which you don't really see in a lot of smoothie concepts. And I guess, their tropical smoothie, I think one of her points is that they're trying to make it an all day concept where you go for breakfast, lunch, snacking,
yeah,
dinner, I guess.
they have a full-on savory menu as well.
Mhm.
I was just wondering what they added recently. They just added a caramelized pineapple smoothie, but also a Hawaiian barbecue slider.
Mhm.
So that's, yeah. I mean, and they've always had like wraps and like,
Right. Yeah. Lots of flatbreads, things that you can actually chew on, like you
right, yeah.
mentioned. Yeah. She does talk about in the next clip, she talks about some of the food. So let me play that.
We have a 24-ounce smoothie that our guests love, and they love that size. Sometimes they just want a little something to eat with it, right? And a flatbread or a wrap might be too much. So really thinking through, how do we provide a breadth of options from a portion standpoint. So our promotion that we're running right now is an example of really feeling our way into snacking. And it's a little pork slider. It's smoked pulled pork and red onions and slaw and on a King's Hawaiian bun. And it's a slider portion, and really trying to offer options like that are sort of savory, that complement some of our smoothies that tend to be a little sweeter.
Yeah. So that sounds like really tempting. I would go in for that.
Totally, yeah.
But there aren't any tropical smoothies in New York. I asked her that.
No.
And then the last clip I'm going to play is she talks about Gen Z and how they're not really adhering to traditional meal times. And that's the demographic that I think a lot of the smoothie concepts are trying to target. So
there's kind of, the traditional day parts are sort of kind of starting to go by the wayside, especially with Gen Z. There's just, the desire to kind of snack a little bit throughout the day, and traditional meal times are really kind of, we see, disappearing. So it's, how can you have a lot of all the different portion options whenever I want them, however I want them, to really meet that Gen Z those Gen Z desires.
So we're not in Gen Z, unfortunately, but
No, we sure aren't.
but I do like to eat. I do like to snack as well. And like I mentioned at Baar Baar, they have the small plates, which I find more appealing than having like a huge platter of one thing. This way you can mix and match and have a lot of different things.
Yeah, and we've been talking in the trend watching world, as you know, about the disintegrating day part for a long time. People, whenever they feel like it, and it's obviously accelerated now that more and more people are working from home, and they can eat in a way that more suits whatever it is they're doing.
Yeah, if there was a smoothie concept near me and it didn't cost $10 to get a smoothie, I would try one.
Yeah, smoothies can
As
be
a snack.
pricey. There's a pretty high-end one based in New York City called Juice Press that has a lot of raw foods also. Their founder was a raw foodist, vegan kickboxer guy. But they have a very ginger-heavy green smoothie that I enjoy sometimes. I don't know whether those things actually work to detoxify you. There's a lot of talk about all those things, cleansing.
Right.
I'm not sure that really works. But they're good, and they're certainly nutritious.
And protein is like something that everyone is seeking now. I mean, not everyone, but it seems to have risen as something that's in demand. And so a lot of these smoothie concepts are putting protein powders into the drinks and making them more of a meal replacement.
They sure are. And there's a lot of people trying to eat more protein, even though the last time I checked, the Mayo Clinic said that most Americans eat twice as much protein as we do.
Right.
So
and that's what, at Menus Have Changed, they always have a speaker who makes that point, that we're getting plenty of protein and we don't need to add protein powder or eat like twice as much meat on our plate.
And that, in fact, vegetables contain protein. Not as much, obviously, as meat, but, any structure that you need, apart from, like, the stock of a plant, anything that actually functions and works is made out of protein. And so vegetables have protein, grains have protein, everything has protein.
Yeah. But
and most of us are not Olympic swimmers or power lifters. Like, we don't need that much.
I totally agree, but I guess most of the American population thinks they're not getting enough.
And, our bodies know how to turn protein into carbohydrates and fat, depending on what we need. So, sure, eat your protein, I guess, except it is more of a strain on the environment, usually depends, unless you're eating lentils, which I certainly recommend, because they're delicious and you can cook them in 20 minutes.
So anything interesting coming up this week?
Well, are you coming to the Informa holiday party? It's on December 5th.
Yes, I am.
So that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't know what's going on. I am going to be vacationing next week. I'm going to go to Los Angeles and then to Las Vegas.
So how nice.
That'll be fun. And I will be hanging out with a friend of mine who's a restaurant consultant in Los Angeles. So he's probably will put together a very fascinating itinerary of things for us to explore.
Great.
I'll have things to report back on. And then in Vegas, I have some other stuff going on that I will also report back on.
Well, until then, we'll be eating and drinking, and we'll fill you all in. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks a lot.
Control the kitchen chaos and streamline your back-of-house operations with Restaurant Technologies. Restaurant Technologies' total oil management solution is the end-to-end automated oil management system that delivers, filters, monitors, and recycles your cooking oil, taking the dirtiest job out of the kitchen and lets your employees focus on more important tasks. The total oil management solution helps prevent the burns, spills, slips, and falls that come with traditional oil management. Restaurant Technologies gives you and your employees peace of mind among the chaos of a commercial kitchen and can maximize efficiency for your business. And no upfront cost. Learn more about Restaurant Technologies and all the solutions they offer by visiting rti-inc.com or call 888-796-4997.